Hello and welcome to the Dare to Differentiate podcast. This is Khani, your host, and today a very special returning guest, Dr. Zvi Goldberg, Doctor of Acupuncture and Chinese Medicine.
Correct.
Practicing in Crown Heights.
Yep.
And yeah, welcome. Glad to have you back.
Well, thanks for having me back.
Yeah.
It's been fun last time, so
Yeah.
should be fun again today.
Oh, funner for sure.
Definitely funner.
Yeah, okay. So this is actually something that we didn't even talk about at all last time. So I feel like this is a good place to start. Your name, Acu for athletes. Can you give a little explanation of why you chose to name your business that, your practice?
So I believe we are all athletes. Definitely all athletes in the game of life, as I call it. So we may not be all professional athletes and being paid for our athletic performance, but we are all athletes at the end of the day. Getting up, moving around, walking, picking up your kids, going to work, those are all athletic kind of performances. And when someone can't do that because they're in pain, it really hinders and affects their day-to-day life. So the idea of my office and what I try to do is help people from any sort of pain, discomfort, something that's not allowing them to live their best life. And we try to help them get back to living their best life. So sometimes people say, like, the name can be sort of deceiving because they say, oh, I'm not an athlete, can I still come to you? And the answer is always yes, because if you're in pain and it's inhibiting your quality of life, then we could definitely help you.
There's something really empowering about that, which I love.
Good.
I'm curious, you mentioned chronic pain, and I know we spoke about chronic pain last time, but I kind of want to take another avenue to chronic pain.
All right, let's do it.
Where does, from your understanding, your experience, where does a lot of chronic pain come? I know that chronic pain is like a very large topic, but what are some ways that it comes from?
Pain is still very much not fully understood, and it's as I like to say, it's multifactorial. So there's a lot going on in chronic pain. Why someone gets into chronic pain necessarily, I don't know for sure, like what would cause someone to have back pain that lasts for 2 months versus someone that has it for 6 to or a lifetime of having back pain or pain like that. But the problem with chronic pain is it's not just pain. When someone is living in chronic pain, it affects their life as a whole. So it's because they're feeling pain, they might not be able to sleep well. Then because they're not sleeping well, the pain's becoming more intense, more stress, less focus. So yes, it might have started off as this little, let's go with the example with low back pain. So it started off with low back pain, and you could isolate that as, okay, I have low back pain, but you could pretty much function throughout the day, right? Your back's hurting you, but you could go to work, you could interact with your children, you could interact with your partner, your spouse. As that pain lasts and lingers, you're slowly getting less sleep. It slowly starts to creep into your life more and more until you don't realize, but it's really affecting your every single day. You can't walk without, every time you want to walk or get out of bed, you have to do it a certain way. You have to think about it. Your mind's constantly on it, and then because of that, your rest of your life is diminished and decreased, and kind of sucks.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because we have spoken about this, how physical pain is like deeply connected to emotional pain.
Okay.
And do you want to speak about that?
Which part?
Which part?
Yeah.
Well, what are the parts?
Okay, so there is this aspect of pain coming from an emotional part. That's where the pain's coming from, right? Like a lot of people say your back pain or your neck pain is due to stress. Or there are people that say if you're having whatever it is going on emotionally, it'll play out physically. So you're having any sort of difficulty, an emotional difficulty, stress, anger, fear, and what else? Grief. So the way that could manifest physically is by a pain in your body.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that aspect. How emotional pain emotion can cause pain.
Mm-hmm. And what's the other aspect?
the other aspect is it goes both ways, right? So just like emotions can cause pain, pain can cause emotions.
Right.
Let's just go with the example with stress. So stress can cause someone to have tight neck and shoulders and neck pain and shoulder pain. And the more stressed you are, the more neck pain you're going to have. And the same thing, you can have neck pain coming from a not stressful environment and you actually hurt your neck, but because your neck is stressed, because your neck is in pain, that can cause you to be stressed. And then you're stuck in this cycle of your neck's hurting you, so you're stressed, and then you're stressed, so your neck's hurting you more and more. So just like an emotion could affect your physical pain or ailments could affect you emotionally. Those are the two aspects.
Okay. In the process of like acupuncture treatment, does it matter, well, like what came first, the chicken or the egg, or can you just treat both?
That's a good question. Me personally, I mean, I don't think it matters what came first. The way I look at it, the way I treat somebody, for the most part, is it really depends on what they're coming in for. If someone's coming in for stress and they're saying, "Oh, I'm coming in for stress and anxiety, and I also have neck pain," I would work on decreasing and helping them manage through their stress. If someone's coming in saying, "I have neck pain," and they think maybe it's related to my stress, I'm not sure what's related to my stress, but it's mostly my neck pain, I'll definitely treat their neck and focus more on their neck pain. And by doing so, it'll automatically help their stress. So if stress could affect your neck, working on your neck could affect your stress. So depending on what I guess my patient's coming in complaining with most, like what's more important to them to work on, that's what we would go with. But does that answer the question?
I guess it's like you are very like patient centered.
I try to be. I try to listen to my patient and treat my patient what they're coming in for. It's kind of funny you said that because was it Monday I had a patient come in with leg pain, and it was an interesting pain. Kind of, he said he's gone to a few other practitioners before me, and no one could figure out exactly where or why he has that pain.
No pressure.
So instead of working on his pain he came in for, they decided to work on his headaches that he kind of mentioned, like on the side. It was like, "Oh, I also have headaches." Like, "Oh, let's work on that because that we know we could help instead of work." And he was like, "But I want to fix my leg. That's what's affecting me. Like, I can't live because of my leg. My headaches are like totally in the back. Once this gets fixed, I'll worry about my head." And I thought that was kind of funny and interesting because that's not what he was coming for. So I try to meet my patient where they are, try to treat them what they're coming in for. Sometimes they think they're coming in for one thing and then they're really coming for something else, but that we find out later on. So I try to treat what they're coming in for. So if they're coming in saying my neck's hurting, we're going to work on their neck. If they're coming in saying I'm stressed and my neck's hurting because I'm stressed, we do both, but we more focus on their stress. Did that answer the question?
Yeah. I was going to ask a follow-up to that. I guess like from my experience, I've seen that a lot of my chronic pain was very much connected to like emotional stuff. And I'm trying to think what my question is.
But when it comes to chronic pain, it's very different than when someone's coming in, let's say, for neck pain or either neck pain inducing stress or stress inducing neck pain, or they're both just, you're in this cycle. When it comes to chronic pain, right, that means they have this pain that's been going on for way too long. And usually when someone has chronic pain, there's more than one thing going on. So usually you're going to have more than one painful area, and because of that you will have a lot more emotional things going on as well. So for that, even that, it depends on, at the end of the day, it's going to depend on what the patient's coming in for, and how we treat it, how we go about treating that. So I try, and most acupuncture in general is supposed to be very patient specific, not symptom or diagnosis specific, right? So we're going to treat the patient in front of us today, not their back pain. So to explain that further is, I think I've said this last time, but if you have back pain, if 10 people come in with back pain, we're not using the same points and the same treatment to treat their back pain, because one of the reasons why back pain is so difficult to treat is because it's not all coming from the same reason, the same cause. So if we're treating everyone with back pain the same way, then yes, some people get better, some people won't, because if you're not treating the cause of their back pain, you might help them 50%, 20%. You might help them to an extent, but you're not going to get rid of their back pain because you're not treating why they have back pain. You're treating back pain in general.
Mm-hmm.
So what I try to do is treat why someone specifically that's in front of me, why do they have their pain? Why do they have their back pain? Why do they have their neck pain? Why do they have their chronic pain?
How do you figure it out?
It's hard.
It's a lot of work.
That's what schooling's for. That's
it's a hustle.
what we do testing. And it's, you might think it's one thing, and then they're after coming in for four weeks and then doing better, then you realize there's something else going on.
Yeah. It can get like really frustrating because it can be such a long like process of like packing.
It could be very frustrating. Like, it's funny, I have patients that come back to me with pain and they're frustrated because they're not seeing the results they want, and I'm always like, I promise you I am more frustrated than you are. Like, this should be working. Like, why aren't we, like, what are we missing? We thought we figured it out, and for some reason you're still in this pain, or the pain only went away for 2 days, and it should be progressing. And it's, I mean, yes, it's definitely frustrating for the patient because they're the one in pain, but extremely frustrated too because, like, why isn't this working?
Right. You like lose sleep over it?
Do I lose sleep over it? Yes. Honestly, I'll come home and I'll be like, what's going on? This patient's still not better. And that's when you do your homework and your research on it and you try your best. But like, we're doctors, practitioners, we're doing detective work. Someone comes in with a problem, we have to figure out why they have the problem and figure out the cause of their problem. So
Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, a little bit. And the body's confusing, and it doesn't have to act the way you think it should act. So, right, we learn in textbooks and we learn in school how the body should act, and then you'll have a patient that is just doing its own thing, and that's on me.
Yeah.
To figure out why and how.
How do you deal with like that frustration?
That's a good question. I don't know. It's very frustrating.
Yeah, like I'm just thinking about it and I'm already frustrated. I mean, I'm also obviously like from my own experience, I know about how frustrating when things don't work out. I'm curious how that goes down.
Yeah, it depends. I guess how I deal with it is when we finally get the breakthrough, that helps the frustration.
Yeah.
Or having, even if it's not with that person, but having another breakthrough somewhere else helps diminish the frustration you're having with that one patient because you see other successes.
Yeah.
That helps with the frustration.
Yeah.
Somewhat.
It's interesting speaking about frustration. You know where this is going?
I know, but like you're having all these leading questions. Oh, funny that we're speaking about this.
Listen.
Now that this comes up.
Listen, just blame on you for the question I'm asking. Wait, yeah. So this is something that came up last time, and I wanted to talk about trauma.
Okay.
Last time, and you're like, no, and I was like, okay, cool. And then when I asked you again this week about it, you were like, well, it's not really my like expertise. And my first reaction, I was like frustrated because I was like, what do you mean you do body work? Like body work like is automatically going to be like trauma informed in some way. And then I was like thinking about it, and I was like how like addicted I am to like trauma informed approach. And I was like, I actually really like the fact that you're like holding such a strong boundary about like, actually, I don't want to talk about that because, and then it like kind of challenged me to find a more like productive way to have a conversation. So that was really cool.
I could help.
What?
So glad I could help.
No, I also feel like your approach in general, like if we're talking about athletes, we're talking about performance, endurance, like optimization, that kind of stuff, which is like so much more like forward. And yeah, like there is darkness and there is like stuff that need to work through, but it's very like focused on like looking forward. And that's something that I really like respect about you. So I guess that'll lead me into the next question about nervous system regulation really helps with like all kinds of things. So I would love if you could talk about that.
The nervous system?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want a question or are you just going to start?
I think I want a question because this is a very big, broad topic.
Yeah.
But I do know what you want me
to say. You know what I want you to say. No, I don't. Listen, you can say whatever you want. Not holding a gun to your head here.
Just to put on what my issue with trauma.
No, please.
we spoke about this, but
Redeem yourself.
Trauma is just, especially in today's day, I mean, unfortunately, people are going through a lot. Trauma is a very broad and very massive umbrella word diagnosis. Like, it can mean so many different things. So when someone just says trauma, I want them to define exactly what you mean by trauma. Do you mean emotional trauma? Do you mean physical trauma? And even in emotional physical, it's massive.
Yeah. Is
So
it one thing? Is it developmental? Is it?
it could be right. It could be so much. So it's not. It's very hard to, for me, who I like to treat, try to figure out what's going on. When someone just says a blanket statement like trauma, it's like inflammation. I feel like it's a word. I guess every couple of years is a new word diagnosis or thing everyone is labeling, and trauma has been a big thing recently.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not to take away that from people that are suffering. It's just we need to define it a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, can you help?
That's so that's where my point is, my area of non-expertise is. Like, that's where I'm not gonna get into the detail of that.
Okay.
But back to your other question about the nervous system, we could definitely talk about that. So the nervous system. So you always are asking me about the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, right? Is that where you're going with?
I mean, not necessarily.
Okay. So do you have a specific question? You want me to just talk about the nervous system
I think
in general?
I would love for you to just to give a little introduction, and then I'll ask.
Okay.
From there.
So we're going to talk about the autonomic nervous system, which is the nervous system in our body that's autonomic. So it's not in our control in terms of it's working in the background by itself. So things like heart rate, for instance, like you can't say heart stop working and it's going to stop. Like, it's not in control. Like, you could say I'm not going to move my arm and it won't move. So that's in your control. That's more like motor. But the autonomic nervous system is not in your control. You can't say work or don't work. And that system is divided into two. There's the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system. Also, so sympathetic nervous system is, a lot of people, it's also known as the fight or flight. And then the parasympathetic is also known as the rest and digest. So the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight, that's there to help you get things done, right? If, let's say it's fight or flight, right? If you're walking in the woods and you see a bear, because who doesn't walk in the woods and see bears these days? That's the system's going to say, should we fight this bear? Can we fight this bear? Or it's going to say, no, let's get the hell out of here. Let's run, right? That's the sympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system is more the rest and digest, where it's how your body's processing, calming down. Usually that's how you're processing your food. When you go to bed, sleep, that's when your parasympathetic should be the most active. During the day, it's more sympathetic. So it's very important that you have a balance between the two. When you get stuck in one of them, which most people end up getting stuck in the sympathetic, so they're constantly in fight or flight, go, 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 and never getting into rest and digest. So that's when you have a lot of these issues when people, because our body, if you're in the sympathetic nervous system, constantly your body's not being able to heal properly, not being able to process all these things that you need to process throughout the day. So if you get stuck in one of them, that could be an issue.
That can be an issue.
That can be an issue.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people who are, especially in America, are constantly working and stressed out, so that could also, so people that are constantly stressed out, they're basically stuck in that system. And I think that might play a role in chronic pain, but definitely if you are in chronic pain, you're more stuck in the sympathetic nervous system than the parasympathetic nervous system. So it could be because people, the way our lifestyle is, we're more sympathetic. That could be a cause. I don't know for sure. That could be a cause where people are experiencing more chronic pain. But definitely if you have chronic pain, it's going to get you to be more in the sympathetic nervous system versus the parasympathetic nervous system.
So then that's I guess a fact from your experience. Can you say that? Or yeah, okay.
Yeah, you could definitely, yeah. But, right, so, I mean, when it comes to figuring out how things work, right, there's two things. There's practitioner, doctors' experience, and that plays a big role. And then there's also the research. And a lot of times those don't overlap. So there's that. Right, you can't always prove, like anecdotal, right, is when something like the doctor, like, okay, this always worked for me. And then you could do research on it, and it's like, but it doesn't really make sense based on the research, or we can't figure out exactly how this works.
So
We know
confusing.
it does work. It's confusing.
It's interesting because I feel like it's so intuitive that when you're in fight or flight, you're going to have chronic pain. Or like, it's much, I shouldn't say that, but like it makes
you more,
makes sense.
definitely makes you more susceptible to it. Yeah, it could be, there's research on it. I just haven't looked it up.
I'm curious how, because I've seen this a lot where they say that acupuncture helps with like depression.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that? Like that system?
So I can't really talk about that system specifically on depression. I could talk about it the way I would treat it.
Okay. Love to hear.
It's something we spoke about before also. So the way I treat depression would be, if you could think of the body as a cup. Okay, so the cup could only hold a certain amount of water. Once they reach the top with water, the water starts to overflow. When it's overflowing, that's when our body is having all these symptoms, right? So whether it's pain, depression, stress, anxiety, any sort of, let's say, negative symptom you're experiencing, it's usually because your body is, it's there's too much going on there. So personally, the way I treat my patient that coming in for that is we're trying to build them a bigger cup, right? So the acupuncture could help calm down their nervous system and help them be able to tolerate more things. So things are affecting them less. Did that answer the question?
Yes, I know. Can you explain what that means to like have somebody be able to tolerate more? Just because they're calmer?
So
Because their body's working better?
when things are happening in the body, if you think of it as, our body naturally is to be able to go through life and kind of be, let's say, just for lack of a better word, balance, even though I hate that word balance because it's very vague. But let's just say it should be able to go through its emotions, right? That it goes through, to feel it, go through it, process it. If you're being stuck somewhere or your body's having a hard time processing it, it's because there's too much. The body is working with too many different things. That's the cup being too full, too much water inside it, so it's overflowing. So the way you can treat that is two ways. You can either take out some of the water or make the body more tolerable or more able to build a bigger cup so you could handle more water. Now the cup's not overflowing anymore, so things aren't as stressful. Things aren't something that's normally that's going to cause someone to act a certain way. It's not going to cause that because their body's able to process it better. If someone's coming in for depression, I always have them go to a therapist, right? Because I think therapy is going to work more on why or be able to work through their depression. Whereas me, I'm going kind of like on like not treating the depression necessarily the depression itself, but just treating the body to be able to handle things so that they're less depressed. So things that are something that's going to cause someone to, or someone it's causing them to be depressed. Now they're like, okay, that's not so bad, right? They could handle it. That's my take. I mean, that's how I treat people like that.
Interesting. You actually meant something about depression, about therapy. What's your hot take on therapy? You want to go there?
I don't know. We could start. One, not everyone needs it.
Okay.
Definitely people. It's a great tool. I'm not knocking it, but it's not. It's not for everyone. But I think the hot take I was talking about is that what we're talking about. Not every box needs to be unpacked. Let's put it at that. Right. Certain things are okay to just be left alone. That's one. Two, sometimes, I mean, from what I see, if you're reminiscing on a certain thing too much and rehashing it too much, that could cause a negative effect as well. So those are my hot takes on therapy.
So it can make it worse.
Yes. Or I don't know if it'd make it worse. It's just not helping the situation.
Yeah.
Right. If certain things should be rehashed and should be spoken about. Certain things I think don't necessarily have to be. And when you make or start doing that, that can cause problems where there weren't. But it's still something I'm toying with. So it's not. Don't leave here saying, Zvi says don't unbox anything and push everything to the bottom of the or say push everything to the bottom of the box, to the bottom of the cup, and don't let anything come out, because that's not what I'm saying.
Right. Well, I think it's
Certain
more
times and
like
certain people.
if you're cleaning up a house, like there's gonna be things like in the garage that need to go straight to the garbage, to the curb, and like you don't need to open it. It's kind of like that. It's like these things, and some of it, like there's certain boxes in the garage that are like the most prized possessions that you want to like unpack.
Yeah, that's a good.
And some of it, like I'm saying, you have like rusty, like I don't know what, and then there's like could be like pictures from like 50 years ago. Like it could be either one.
Right.
So you have to just be like smart enough, and you have to like,
yeah,
to be able to choose like which is which. And I really 100% agree with you on that.
As I said, I'm still toying with it.
No, I think it's a really important thing to like say. I think it's something that, especially since it's like the first thing that people like send, like for me, I would like first say body work and then therapy. That would be my personal advice. Whatever the body work is. But I think also we don't even have like the language to so much of what we're even saying. Like you can say whatever's going on, but like it's not really what happened. Like you could unpack something and you could like literally write a whole new story as you're saying it. It's almost like a performance of something that happened that I don't know.
Yes and no.
Yes and no.
I do think there are some people that definitely need therapy, and it's fantastic for them. So I think, I guess it depends.
I don't think we're not discounting therapy.
Okay, good.
Don't worry.
I have to clarify that. That's all.
Yeah. No, we're not discounting therapy. Chas v'shalom. It's just like,
Therapy's
where do you go first?
I think that's going to depend on the person.
That's what I'm saying. But I'm saying you have to know like that's an option, and that it's an option for specifically like mental health and emotional health. That's the point that I'm trying to make.
Okay.
That,
that's
like,
a great point.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
That like it's a really like incredible valid tool for you to use.
Yes. Agreed.
Okay.
Very good point.
Listen, like that's what they pay you to do.
Definitely something to explore. Yeah, especially so there's two, I guess, train of thought with when someone's going through a complex issue, let's call it, right? There's either do one thing at a time so you know what's working,
mm-hmm.
or attack at all fronts,
mm-hmm.
so at least you're getting results. And then once the results are much better, then you could start maybe either taking things out or trying to figure out what works the best.
Mm-hmm.
So there's two aspects. I guess it probably depends on how severe what's going on, or the person.
Time, money.
Is. Definitely time and money too. That's I guess that might be number one. And it's very easy for someone to say, oh, health. Obviously, yes, health is important, because if you're not worried about health, then you're gonna end up spending, like, what have I been saying? You think health is expensive,
mm-hmm.
wait till you're sick.
Right.
Now that's a great thing to say. It sounds really nice and like, oh, you should really spend money to stay healthy. But when someone's struggling with money, right, then they just can't just spend their money or the limited money they have to do these things instead for health. They have to pick and choose what the best bang for their buck.
100%.
Right, you can't just go to acupuncture, PT, chiropractor, therapy. Like, you have to, when money is
an
limited,
object.
What?
When money is an object.
An object, which it is with a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
You have to spend it wisely.
Mm-hmm.
And just because one person told you that this is the way to go, that doesn't mean that's the right decision for you. Or so it's another one of those things that I have a very difficult time. Like, I have my patients that I'm like, okay, I know I could help you, but it's going to cost a lot of money.
Right.
Like, I'm being really honest with you. You're not going to get better after 3 treatments. Like,
mm-hmm.
this is you're probably going to have to be coming for the rest of your life. Like, this is a condition that there's no cure for. There's just palliative care, which is mitigating the symptoms so you can live your best life, but you're going to have it in the background. And as soon as you slack off in any which way, it'll start coming back.
Yeah.
Not saying that you have to come to acupuncture specifically, but like, if you're not like worrying about your diet, your sleep, and all that stuff, like, perfectly, like, you're going to have symptoms.
Yeah.
And it's really hard when when people are faced with that decision. And because they're not right now in so much pain and money is an object, they're trying to see what's their best option. And
yeah.
can I say acupuncture is their best option? No. If you're looking, like someone was asking me questions about, I don't want to say what, because just in case he's listening, but like, it's like, honestly,
Better be listening.
if you want to have the cheapest, I guess, therapy you can do if you're going through something chronic would be making sure you're getting enough sleep and your diet. Now, diet's not cheap either, but it's probably, you need to spend money on food. So if you add a little bit more money to it, it's still going to be cheaper than going through a lot of these therapies and taking medication and things like that. So
supplements.
It's difficult. Yeah, supplements, because it's natural. The amount of money, like people are against big pharma, right? Big pharma, but like the supplement game is strong. They're making millions too. So it's big pharma, big supplements. Just be careful with that.
They're literally, it's like the same thing.
It's the same thing. Just they have what's the opposite of a guilty conscience? Because it's healthy and natural. They get to sleep at night, whereas big pharma shouldn't be able to sleep at night.
Right. Well, somebody's making money, so, which is no shade. Like, make money, you know?
Yeah, just
or a little shade.
About it.
Don't lie about it. I think what's two things here that just to know that, like, it can be a great option for specific things.
Acupuncture.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fantastic for a lot of things.
And I think it's really helpful when you're not like, this is the end all be all, because then like that makes you more trustworthy. Because like if you're swearing by it that it could solve everything, then it's like, I can't trust you because it's not how it works. That's not how life works. So I think that's really important. And I feel like people are like kind of looking for that, like, end all, what's that supplement? What's that drug? What's that treatment? What's that, like, whatever, magic pill that's going to make me stay young, that's going to make me this, that. Like, it's just not how it works. Actually, speaking of which, I saw a really good TikTok last week. It was like 11 o'clock at night, and this girl was like, everyone was asking me about my skincare routine, and she's like, you're going to hate this. She's like, I sleep a ton. I drink a ton of water. But she's like, yeah, and I like cut toxic people out of my life.
But it's true.
And I was like, that is literally the best advice ever. 10 minutes later, turned my phone off, went to sleep. And it was like before midnight. It is true. Like.
No, yeah, it definitely is.
It doesn't nothing happens by itself.
Because it's so easy. Well, not so easy, but because it's easy, people don't want to believe it's true. Right?
Send me a link for a cream that's $200. I'll buy it.
Right, but go to sleep and drink water. Why? That can't work. It's too easy. Mm-hmm. I think the world underestimates sleep. Like if you're getting a good night's sleep, so many things will be better. Mm-hmm. But it's not one good night of sleep. It's good night of sleep, and then you can have one bad night. Right? If you're having bad nights and you have one good night, it's not going to change much because the body things have to build on each other. Nothing happens overnight. Mm-hmm. There's back to the magic pill. One of the things I always tell my patients when they come in for the first time, I'm like, it's gonna take a few treatments. Unfortunately, I'm still looking for that magic needle. If you find it, let me know, but I haven't found it yet. And don't expect me to put 2 needles in and you're gonna feel better for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. And I wish I could, but that's not how our bodies work.
Right.
So bring that up to somebody else.
Yeah, literally.
I didn't create us.
How do you I guess there is like so much meaning in that when we just like get past like the process of like the peeling the onion and like just piece by piece, like constantly. I mean, I guess that's why you do it.
Yeah.
How do you like stay motivated?
Seeing results.
Yeah.
Primarily. It's fantastic when a patient comes to me that says they were in pain for X, Y, for so many years, or let's go with pain, right? And then and I see how much they could function. Mm-hmm. And you see day by day, like the first few weeks they're coming in, like there's no smile on their face and the way they're talking, their voice, and And it's heartbreaking because they're just trying to survive and they didn't ask for this, and it's a lot. And then 3 weeks later, like, they're smiling, they're talking better, and then and at that point they're still like, I'm still in pain, everything still hurts, like still. And like, I can't say anything at that point, because if they're still in pain, they're feeling it, like they're not, I can't say, no, you're feeling better, because look, I can hear you're smiling more.
Mm-hmm.
And then with more treatment, then they come back to you like, oh, that pain, like I don't have it. Or like, I had a patient once came in for something, and then we started working on knee pain, and then we started working on his sleep, and then he stopped coming. And then I saw him again, or for every reason I asked him, like, oh, how's your knee doing? He goes, what do you mean my knee? I never had a knee problem. Like that makes me happy.
What?
Yeah. So he's like, no, I was coming to your sleep. I never came to you for my knee. I'm like, well, you started for your knee, but I'm happy you forgot about your knee.
The history revisionist over here.
So that's a big motivation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That and supporting my family.
Mm-hmm.
Two key drivers.
Yeah. If your patient is like struggling, right? But you have to support them because that's your job. But you're also like trying to figure out like how to make it happen. So I guess that's why I feel like it's just like a lot stacked up against you. So
yeah, the hardest part is getting the patient to trust the process. And I totally understand that, because when you're living in pain for so long, if let's say you've never had acupuncture before, you never tried it, you're in pain, you've tried a whole bunch of things already. Like, I have a patient that's in pain for X amount of years. They literally tried a whole bunch of things, and they come to me because their friend told them that this works. And then I'm like, okay, it's gonna take time. Like, they already spent money, they already did these things that people, that they were sworn, if you do this, you're gonna feel better. And they come back week to week and like, I'm not feeling any change. I'm not seeing change. I'm like, it's still about the time. Like, give it some time. And then eventually they start to see results, and then they slowly start trusting. And then the biggest issue I find that patients come across is when you're in a healing journey, let's just put it that, healing journey, it's not linear, right? It's not like you're gonna slowly start getting better, and keep going up. You can have some good ups, and you can have some really bad downs. And a lot of people fall off the wagon when they have a bad down. And I try to tell my patients that at day one, like, this is totally normal for it to happen. And no matter how many times I tell them that you might have some downs, and if you do, don't be discouraged. Still, like, they'll stop coming, or they'll call me up in a panic saying, oh my gosh, my pain's at 10 out of 10 today. And I said, okay, like, I'm sorry that you're feeling that way, but like, remember we said, like, as long, like, it is normal for that to happen. There's a lot of reasons why that can happen. As long as, like, you have to look at the big picture. So like I tell people, like, your healing process or healing journey should be like the stock market. You're gonna have ups and downs. As long as you look back and it's mostly up, you're on the right page. If it's mostly down, then something's not working.
What do you do with the vagus nerve in your practice?
I'm laughing because people come to me saying, can you stimulate my vagus nerve? I said, sure I can, but why do you want me to stimulate your vagus nerve? What's happening? It's like, I don't know. My friend told me I should get a stimulator, so I want it. I'm like, okay. So we can.
So why do they ask that?
A lot of times they ask that because that's the new TikTok, or the new, right? That's the new fad thing that they need to be treated. So with acupuncture, we could directly affect the vagus nerve so there's a branch of the vagus nerve that goes to the ear. So by putting needles in the ear specifically, we are triggering the vagus nerve. But also, like I said, it's, for the most part, you're working on the parasympathetic nervous system. You're trying to get the body to relax. So there are different points in the body that have an effect on that process, on the vagus nerve, or just the parasympathetic in general, that helps the body calm down and relax. So that's when I would use the vagus, like, quote unquote, the vagus nerve. It's more so, I think of it less as the vagus nerve, and it's more so just getting the body to calm down. Yes, that will automatically affect the vagus nerve. Did that answer the question?
Yeah.
With the vagus nerve?
Actually, I was just thinking about this, is because it's like, the reason why people are in fight or flight is because they're not safe, or that as in one reason for being in fight or flight is because there's a lack of safety. So if somebody's like in an unsafe environment, then they are obviously going to be in fight or flight just to keep themselves safe, right? And so part of the process of healing is obviously finding like a safe place to just like get healed, obviously.
Right.
So have you ever experienced like, or seen, maybe I shouldn't ask this. Yeah, I'm gonna ask it. Where somebody's like in an unsafe like place, so their body like doesn't calm down.
What do you mean by unsafe place?
Well, either unsafe environment at home or like, I don't know, like feeling unsafe in some like a relationship or a job or like, I'm wondering if you've like ever seen
Yes.
that.
So
Okay.
yes, I have some patients that actually, it's kind of funny because they came to me before they went to therapy, but they're in a not a really great relationship, terrible marriage, abusive husband, refusing to give a get, things like that, which is heartbreaking. And then they come to me, and so that's that thing where we're building that bigger cup. So firstly, I get most of the time straight away they come off the table after treatment and they say, I feel amazing, like they're completely finally be able to rest, and just their body could, because at home they can't get into that parasympathetic, their body's never restoring and resting, and they could come to me and we get the parasympathetic nervous system to kind of turn on for a little bit, so they come out feeling so relaxed. That plus we're building a bigger cup so that yes, they're still in an unsafe environment, but so in terms of the unsafe environment, where I can't fix their unsafe environment.
Right. That's why
I can't do that. So I always tell them, like, yes, you need to go to a therapist for that. You need to, I mean, sometimes people, like, if husbands are refusing to give a get, like, there's not much they could do at that point. Like, they're working with whoever they need to work with to get that dealt with. But it's not so, because they're in an unsafe environment, there's a lot of other things going on in their body. So because so let's say the unsafe environment is the biggest stressor. That's right. Basically filled a cup up 75%. So now they can't handle.
Or like 110, honestly.
What?
Or like 110.
Or 110. So now everything else on top of that is definitely making the cup overflow. So for me, it's more so building a bigger cup so that they could handle other things. So I'm not making them feel more safe, but certain things that are stressing them out now because their body's on like really high alert is going to not affect them as much. But so, like, ultimately, yes, sometimes you do need to take out that stressor, and that might be the best thing for them. So as soon as they get out of that relationship, that's fantastic. Like, right away, their cup's back down to 25%. But I can't do that for somebody. Right.
No, it's interesting you said that, because my question really was like, will the body not take
the acupuncture?
The acupuncture because they're in an unsafe environment? And it sounds like not necessarily. I mean,
so sometimes it takes the patient like a few treatments before they could even calm down and relax. Yeah, that definitely happens at times. So the answer is yes.
Yeah.
I mean, for the most part, they'll still say, "Oh, that felt really good." But like, to me, I know, like, if they could fall asleep on the table, like, I know they really, really got like a good, like, they really got into that parasympathetic nervous system. That's what I like to see. If some people have a hard time relaxing or not moving, right? So like, just the fact that we're putting needles in them, that's triggering them in a way.
Yeah.
So then it takes them a few treatments to just be okay with getting needled. So there's that challenge there. So yes, needles could help get you in a parasympathetic nervous system, but needles could also put you in a fight or flight mode. Right. So that's the balance that, as a practitioner, you have to treat the patient, not the symptom. Not, okay, you're stressed, let's just throw in 100 needles. Because if someone hates needles, then yes, you might want to just do some like body work, like not needles, just, gentle other things, and until they could trust you and you could put needles in them and things like that.
That's a huge part of it. It's the trust.
Oh yeah, that's massive. And it's always like, you're coming to me and like people have a lot of like a big distrust in men, and I'm like, I'm a guy, so it's the challenge. Like, you have to be very careful of what you could and can't do, and I try to make it as safe as possible. And I mean, any no matter who's coming into my office, I always say, like, if there's anything you're uncomfortable with, just let me know. Like, there's nothing we have to do. We could always do less, do nothing, decrease, increase. Like, it's you're in control. I mean, yes, I'm the one doing the treatment, so like, it's not that you say, oh, don't treat that, right? Like, I'm gonna say this is what needs to happen, but if that's too much for you for one day, or that's making you freak out, then we have to figure out a different way to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, if there's a certain point you do, it's called yin tang. It's all the third eye, so it's between your two eyes, right? No one can see because we're not doing a video, but I'm tapping my third eye. So there's a point, and that's a very calming point. I would say most people really like the point. I've had people come to me begging me, asking for me to put that point in. I know for me personally, it makes me very claustrophobic. Like, I cannot stop thinking about the points. I hate that point. I've had a few patients that say that gives them a headache and they don't like that point. So most times before I nail that point, I'll tell people, hey, listen, this is a really calming point, but people really don't like it. So if you don't like it, we'll try it. If you don't like it, we'll never do it again. If you like it, then great.
Right.
Or if, let's say, ear, I do points in the ear because the ear is really good at, like you said, targeting the vagus nerve to calm you down. But the points in your ear feel different than body points. There's more cartilage. Well, there's just cartilage. There's less skin. There's less fat. There's less muscle in your ear. So it feels different. People like the needles in the ear more. People really dislike it. So if putting a needle in your ear is going to cause you to be in high alert the entire treatment, then it might not be worth doing those points, and we have to figure out something else that'd be more beneficial for you.
Yeah. You just mentioned something that I feel like we need to do a whole episode on.
What's that?
People's distrust in men, and how.
Okay, sorry, I just want to clarify. It's not just it's people's distrust in people.
And people.
Men have been getting a bad rap these days.
They have, people. and I think that's why it's really important to talk about it, because it's like there's a lot of lived experience that people have with that kind of thing, and it's like I feel like we're born to be very trusting, and we like trust until
proven otherwise.
Till proven otherwise, and then you just like try again, and then you're just like.
Well, I think unfortunately, it's trust, and it's not. You don't realize that you should. It's not until proven otherwise. It's usually when it's proven otherwise, it's already too far.
Yes.
That's that sucks, and I don't know why it's happening.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm sure you see, like, honestly, like, now I can probably see so much of that, and it's like probably traumatizing, honestly.
That's it's terrible. It's like the whole Laguna thing on social media. That was like, it just made my blood boil to see, like, I'm so happy that it came to awareness, but it's like, it was just crazy how like there's so many stories like that. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it kind of makes sense, but it's also, I mean, it doesn't make sense. And then if you could like take a quick look at like people's experiences, just like within the context of marriage, or maybe within like getting ready for marriage or whatever, like when you talk about people having distrust in men, it's not only married women who don't trust men.
Oh no, I know that.
No, I know you know that. But I'm saying, I just like need to clarify that, because like the Aguna situation is just like a symptom of a much greater issue.
Yeah, of course, because someone that's not giving a get to their wife is an abusive person, and they're using that to be abusive.
Right, but it's a systemic issue at this point.
Well, what do you mean by systemic issue?
If systemically there was a way to protect women in that way, and something is happening that protection isn't in place.
Right.
So, and I think it goes a lot further back. Like it doesn't start all of a sudden at a divorce. It starts just like relationship wise. I believe that it's like much more in general how women are treated, and in general how just people's approach to marriage, people's approach to relationships in general, like distrust of people, of the system. I can get into more detail, but
okay.
I feel like it's not an isolated thing.
What do you mean? It's not a nice way to think.
Isolate.
Oh, isolate.
It's not an isolated.
Oh, isolated
thing.
No, it's not.
at all.
No, I see a lot of people that they were. This is obviously not everybody, not like a statement, but a lot of people that are in an abusive relationship also grew up being abused. So they think a lot. They not. I won't say the word trust, but like to them, it's more normal to see that happening. And the time they realize it's like this is crazy, is they have to. It's sad that someone has to talk to a friend for them to let them know that if your husband's abusing you, that's not normal. So yeah, I guess that should be taught or brought to awareness, which I think that's happening now.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's a crazy situation, and it's.
But I think that's what's really cool about like what the value that you bring, because you can talk from today till tomorrow that like this isn't okay, this isn't safe. But like if somebody doesn't feel safe in their body, there's nothing you could do. Like you can't get out of it. Like if you're in fight or flight, like there's nothing.
Well, I mean, the idea of therapy. I know, because I'm just defending therapy here. I'm not sure why, but the idea of therapy is to.
I was just giving you a compliment. I'm just giving you a plug. That's
no,
all.
I know, but the idea of therapy.
And you're trying to make it more well-rounded, which I respect.
The idea of therapy is to make you feel more safe, or make you. Well, you can't feel safe if you're being abused, but to help you handle those stressful situations, and help you that it's okay. Like a lot of people that are in that are in abusive relationships, because right, there's always that the better the beast you know than the beast you don't know, right? So it's the idea of just giving them confidence to just leave, because you will be better.
Yes, and it's not as simple as just leaving.
Oh no, it's never that. No, it's never that simple. But the idea of giving them courage to help them get change or get out of that situation.
Mm-hmm.
Like acupuncture can't do that. Like people come to acupuncture all the time because we're sitting with you for so long. It can shift into a therapy session.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, this is going to be a lot of acupuncturists enjoy that therapy, that idea of being a therapist,
mm-hmm.
which I think is very, very wrong, because you weren't trained to be a therapist. You're trained
mm-hmm.
to be an acupuncturist. And just because you experience something in your life does not mean you have the ability to help everyone else.
Yes.
So, and if someone's coming to you as a patient, they're usually very trustworthy. So if you're going to start giving them therapy advice, you better tell them that you are not a trained therapist and you should seek out other help for this. But in my experience, or what I have found helpful, you could say that. Wait, what was the question? I just went on it.
No. I wasn't. That was such an important point.
Because all through school, like everyone thinks of the therapist to their patient. It's like, you're not a therapist. You're there. You have to remember what you can do and what you can't do. What you're like, they're coming for acupuncture, and yes, they might be telling you all these things because you're there to listen, which is fine, and you can do that, and you can be that person that they could, like. You can be that person that they could just talk to, and you can be their quote unquote sounding board, and that in itself can be very helpful for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
But to start giving advice and start giving therapy is wrong.
Yeah.
Sorry, acupuncturists out there.
No, don't apologize. I actually had a terrible experience with somebody who gave me body work and gave me advice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not just acupuncturists, it's a lot of massage therapists. And I mean, anyone that's doing any sort of body work, when you're just in the room with somebody for a half hour to an hour, those things get brought up, because a lot of times you end up trusting your practitioner because they're doing all this body work on you, and you're there and you end up talking, and you build this relationship, and you start feeling safe. And that's when people have really bad advice from their not therapist.
That's like such an incredible boundary, and I just want to like honor and thank you for that, because it's
Thank you.
Probably really hard sometimes, but it's like really incredible. And I feel like I just want to share this personal experience because it kind of also connects to this whole this whole thing. Basically, I'm not going to say what kind of body work it was, but this goes back like 4 years ago.
Okay, before me.
What?
Before my time.
No. And there was something specific I was going through at that time, and I shared it with her. And she was telling me, she's like, I feel something in your heart, and like, you really have to forgive. You really have to let go. And like, I really took it to heart because, like, obviously, like, she's true. But what I didn't realize, like, she didn't realize, like, how much, and it was a man who hurt me, like, really, 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 like, terribly. It was like, it was so bad the way that he treated me. And for her to tell me, like, oh, you just have to forgive, like, really messed with me big time. And it ended up, like, I think it ended up, like, making the whole, like, healing process a lot longer. Actually, it feels really good to just, like, put it out there in the open. There was something about it that was so off about her, like, giving me that advice of, like, oh, you just have to let go. And sometimes, like, you don't have to let go. Sometimes you don't have to forgive. Like, if somebody, like, really wronged you, like, that's just what it was. And, like, especially, I think, as women, we're just taught to be, like, so forgiving all the time. Take the high road. And that's, like, a huge lesson that I learned just from that bad experience of, like, no, like, actually, and it's like, oh, like, you're holding on to it, you can't move on because you haven't forgiven him. And it's like, it's not my obligation. Like, it's not my thing. So yeah, thank you. I really, I think it's very admirable that you feel so strongly about it, and please don't apologize. And if anybody has any questions, what?
Apology taken back.
No, like, it's not your place.
Just
like,
stay in your lane.
Yeah, it's not. And I think that's actually a really fantastic way to end off.
All right.
Yeah. Do you want to share anything else? Closing remarks?
No. That's all. Until next time.
Yeah, until we unpack the patriarchy and figure out what's wrong with the
society.
No, not society. I think just, like, shining a light onto, like, issues is so important. And maybe, like, everyone should stop giving advice and just, like, like, hold space for, like, what the issue is.
So now that you're bringing that up, no, I just wanted to go back to what we first said all the way in the beginning about athletes and giving them their inspirational quotes.
Yeah.
Stay in your lane. Right?
100%. Like, that's the first thing you said.
Just because you have, right, I guess, but you just clarified it. Yeah. Right? Just because you have a lot of followers and people are following a certain thing, it's not your place to give. I mean, inspirational advice is okay, but, like, also, like, it's, I don't know, inspirational advice right now, it's too much. It's all over the place, and everyone's just doing it because, like, it's cool. Like, I just find it funny because I'm trying to build my Instagram and TikTok, and so I follow a lot of these pages that help you or try to give you advice, because no one knows what they're doing on TikTok or Instagram, but try to give you advice on how to grow, right? He's like, oh, with ChatGPT. Mm-hmm. So with ChatGPT, he's like, just put in, give me inspirational quotes. And, like, look, I have 100 posts now with inspirational quotes. I'm like, that's not, like, if you're going to come up with your own inspirational quote, that's one thing. Don't just start quoting things and posting all on Instagram. Like, it's not, I don't know. I just take it off. I don't like that.
Yeah. Unless
like,
you're just
it should be, the quote should be meaningful to you. It's something that you believe in or live by before you start posting it.
Yeah.
I think.
Or before, I think that's great.
They're just like ChatGPT a million quotes and start posting those out on Instagram because it makes people happy. So that's what I'm going to do. And I thought that was very funny.
Yeah.
Like, that's so cheap.
Yeah, it's very cheap, but I think cheap thrills. And I think that it's much easier to just give advice over just, like, holding space for, like, what is.
Yes.
But that's where it's at. Like, the presence and, like.
It's not that that's where it's at. It's depending on the person. And I think there's a time and place for holding space, and a time and place for giving advice, and a time and place for everything else. And my job is to give space, not to give advice to my patients. Okay. And I've had a lot of people who've, like, really thanked me for it. Like, thank you for not just jumping down my throat, giving me, like, this is what you should do. And it's just like, you sat there and just listened to me like that. That's all I needed. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty powerful. Yeah. So I do that.
Yeah, very admirable, I've got to say. So thanks for being here and for sharing your wisdom.
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah. And come back and see us again soon.
I will.